Thank you for tuning in to watch Kenya's #1 interactive debate platform. This is the Great Debaters Contest. I am your host, Chris Boru.
And I am Esperanza Kapanga. And this time we are in Nakuru region, and starting us off today, in the proposition, we have Njoro Girls High School.
In the opposition, we have St. Gabriel's Lanet Boys High School.
And the motion of the day is active euthanasia should be legalized in Kenya.
Proposer number 1, you have 3 minutes to make a statement.
Active euthanasia should be legalized in Kenya. Euthanasia is the practice of killing a person without pain who is suffering from a disease which cannot be cured. The term euthanasia was first used by Suetonius, referring to Emperor Augustus, who died in the arms of his wife painlessly. It was later used in the medical context by Francis Bacon to refer to painless death. There are 2 types of euthanasia, which is the active and the passive euthanasia. On these terms, we'll focus on the active euthanasia, which is the administering of a drug or an injection to end the life of a person painlessly. To legalize, it's to make a policy permissible by the law. Simply, this motion states that the law of Kenya should permit induced deaths to terminally ill people. Jacinta Mukami from the Njoro Girls High School proposing this motion. Active euthanasia is actually legalized in some countries. These countries include Belgium, Canada, and the Netherlands. Most of you think that practicing active euthanasia will shorten the lifespan of a person. Well, it doesn't. Active euthanasia, when practiced, it only minimizes the pain of a person. Let's say if we practice active euthanasia, the lifespan of a person will only be reduced by a few hours or less than a week. This is preferable considering the amount of pain and suffering that the patient will be undergoing. Active euthanasia is reserved for only the terminally ill patients, meaning patients who are on the verge of death, patients who are just a step towards death. Yet, when practicing active euthanasia will minimize their suffering and pain. Active euthanasia will cause, when practiced, it causes pain, suffering, not only to the patients, but also to the patients' families. Consider a patient suffering from cancer, which is in its final stages. The pain, the agony, the person just wants to die. Yet you deny this person the right to die, causing the person suffer more, feel the pain more. You don't consider the pain they are undergoing. Family members will be most affected, thinking of how their loved one underwent the pain, how their loved one felt when he was suffering. So, my fellow students and Kenyans, let's join this motion and support the motion that says active euthanasia should be practiced, should be legalized in Kenya. Thank you.
First proposer, you have 3 minutes to make your case.
Fellow intellects, we have gathered here to discuss a motion that is clearly in our table of thought and to the tip of our tongue, a situation that leaves men in dilemma. I'm opposing the motion active euthanasia should be legalized. According to the medicinal net written in 13th May 2006, it clearly describes euthanasia as an assisted suicide. What is suicide? Suicide now is an ability of taking away someone's life. And a life is an ability to breathe, to grow, and also to reproduce. I start my motion by opposing that euthanasia should not be legalized because the Lord is the giver of life, and since the life is sacred, God is the only one who is supposed to take it away. And I will also counteract my fellow intellect was just sat now, that if you argue that the person who is suffering is squandering the family resources, you just take the term euthanasia in materialistic way. I also tell you that a person who is suffering might recover from a coma. And I oppose the motion that the coming up technology, they might have come up with some solutions for some terminal diseases which are uncurable. Thank you.
Second opposer, you have 3 minutes for cross-examination.
According to my situation right now, I'll stand firm and say that we should propose the motion that states active euthanasia should be legalized in Kenya. First, I'd like to correct my opponent by saying we did not say that active euthanasia is suicide. We said it is assisted suicide, meaning that you are aware when it's going to take place. You are aware of the suffering that you're going through and you're ready to put an end to it. And also, it only shortens life by a week. It doesn't mean that because you are in a coma or you are about to die, we will know when you're going to die. It does not mean that. It means that euthanasia will only shorten your life by a week or even less than 24 hours. And on to my first point. I like to propose this motion by saying the cost of using active euthanasia in Kenya is actually economical. First, it is economical because look at the people who have patients in hospital suffering and like a disease like cancer, which cannot even be treated when it's in the last stage. And the cost of treating this cancer is really high. It will force people in Kenya to sell their land, sell their property, and they'll even become bankrupt. Imagine you living without money. Just because someone is busy suffering in hospital, terminally ill, cannot even be cured, and you do not want the person to practice euthanasia. Also remember, according to our research from the USA, we have people suffering from terminally ill diseases that when you want to treat them, it will cost you $5,000 to treat them. Yet a euthanasia drug only costs $50. If you convert that money into Kenyan currency, you see that money will be more than what you expect. You cannot even afford it. That's why I keep proposing and saying that active euthanasia should be legalized in Kenya. And also, you can tell me that NHIF programs will cater for this. No. Only a quarter of it, even less than a quarter of it. They'll only provide a quarter because a disease like cancer, remember the person is terminally ill, then you expect NHIF to pay for it. It can't work like that. It will also be deducted from your salary. Remember that. You don't want to go to undergo a pain whereby your salary will always be deducted, yet you could have allowed a person to rest painlessly. On to my second point. We have a British Broadcasting Corporation that says, under a saying that goes, we need it, we want it, and we can control it. When we say we need it, this is a compassion argument, stating that we should allow people to die in a more dignified way. And when you allow people to die in a more dignified way, they'll also respect you in their perfect place in the grave. That's why I stand and say that active euthanasia should be legalized in Kenya. Thank you.
Second opposer, you have 3 minutes for your examination.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Bravin from St. Gabriel's Boys High School, Lanet. I would like to oppose the motion of the days that states that active euthanasia should be legalized in Kenya. Euthanasia is a process that is according to the Advanced Learners Dictionary, 8th edition. It simply defines it as the practice of killing somebody without inflicting pain. The underlying word, my audience, is that it is killing. Killing simply also means murder. My first point, according to the Supreme Constitution of Kenya, Chapter 4, Article 26, Clause 1, it states that every person in this country is entitled to right to life. When we further scrutinize it, that is as we refer to clause number 2 of the same chapter, life of a person begins at conception. Legalizing this euthanasia means that we are going against our Supreme Constitution. We need to familiarize ourselves about the supremacy that is entailed in our Constitution so that we can come up with these ideas of legalizing this euthanasia. Point number 2. We have several paramedics in this country and the globe at large. These are the people whom we have given them a chance to carry out research in various fields. Legalizing this euthanasia, ladies and gentlemen, means that we are preventing the lives of these people. They have their families. They have to serve the world at large. Look at the likes of William Wallace. This is a guy who sailed from India. Introduced what is called a palliative drug. This is a drug that is used to lessen the pain of a person that is in a critical condition. So when we legalize this motion, my audience, it means that we are not creative enough for us to take any odds. The paramedics or the doctors are taking their odds. When we legalize this euthanasia, it means that the hypocritical oath that they are taking, they are not after it. Ladies and gentlemen, let's not pass this motion as it is. Thank you.
Proposers have been asked, by stating that euthanasia is economically friendly to us, are they suggesting that finances are more valuable than lives of humans? The opposers have been asked to give examples of diseases that do not have cures, as they have mentioned before. Proposer number 3, you have 3 minutes to answer the question.
Active euthanasia should be legalized in Kenya. I'm answering the question. You asked if we prefer money or the lives of our beloved one. The fact still remains, money cannot buy life. We'll spend all we have in our banks, but will not take life back. It's terminally ill. No matter how much we'll spend, the children of these who are dying, they remain to suffer. Do you prefer generations to suffer and money cannot buy life? And to my first point, we are supporting euthanasia to be legalized in Kenya because we want a dignified death. For example, those who are suffering with HIV/AIDS. Actually, 1.6 million people in Kenya are suffering from euthanasia. We want that at their last stage, they have wounds all over, and everyone is just talking of their indignified conditions. We want a dignified death. We don't want these people to feel secluded. Once you have these wounds all over your body and everyone is speaking of how much you're suffering, we won't prefer death. We won't prefer to save your life. We will prefer you die in a dignified way. And to my opposers, I want to ask you a question. You're saying about research that if we legalize euthanasia, that there is no research is going to be practiced. Let us not be very short-sighted. This research has always been there, and it will always be there. But since the day they started their research, we have never seen the solution of it. We have to take something that is fast before we see our beloved just suffering. You know, you're not putting yourself into the shoes of this person suffering. You know, active euthanasia simply means I've accepted, I just want to go, I'm so desperate. If you are the one in their shoes, what would you prefer? I'd prefer the same, just to live, because I don't want to keep on suffering. You put yourself in this shoe, you can't go on speaking, we don't want euthanasia, we don't want euthanasia. You know, pain is only born by the person suffering. We can support you in every way, but we cannot bear your pain. So that is why active euthanasia should be legalized in Kenya. Another point, when you deny me the right to practice euthanasia, I'll go for a second alternative. And the alternative, trust me, it won't be the best. It will be painful and tormenting because you have denied me the right to go through the right way of death. I can throw myself from a 10-floor building just to die. Remember, we are not allowing euthanasia because we hate these people. It's because we don't want to see our beloved suffering. Thank you.
That opposer, you have 3 minutes to answer the question.
My fellow medics to be, we have gathered here to talk about a motion that's clearly in our minds. A motion that when we oppose it, it will have a milestone in the coverage of human race. I'm Kenneth Kamano from St. Gabriel, hereby opposing the motion that states active euthanasia should be legalized. To my answering of the question which was posed, the ailments, I don't think right now we have the curing of HIV, AIDS, and cancer. Those are the examples of the diseases that we don't have the cure right now. We have HIV, AIDS, and cancer. So to the other one, he has asked about research. There is time for everything. In laws of nature, it states that there is time for everything. So legalizing euthanasia is like reversing the law of nature, where we say there's time for harvest, there's time for planting, time of happiness, time of sadness, time of mourning, and also times of rejoicing. So also there's time for birth, and also there's time of death. So why are we taking it to our hand that you are the ones who are setting the time of death for an individual? We are not the ones who set the time of birth. So why should we be the one who are setting the time of death? So, my dear educates, so we stop acting like demigods, that you are the one, we are deciding if an individual is going to live or not. So let us play our role as human beings and let us continue and let us leave death take its course. Because finally, every person dies. We are all Christian. Every person, we are not only Christian, we are for different religions and dominions. So in Christianity, they believe in a holy book. The holy book is the Bible. The Bible sets standards, where the Bible states that in the 6th commandment, you should not commit murder. And in the Quran, in Islamic, they believe that in the Quran, in Hadith, Prophet Muhammad says, in peace be upon him, you should not take somebody's life because you don't have right for it. So why are we being preachers that we are preaching water but we are taking wine? We are being hypocrites. So does this mean that the holy books are wrong? That the books, they were set in the wrong text, that people should go back to time and correct the books. So if you are not a Christian, which Kenya is made of 60% Christians, 30% Islam, and the other 10% Hindus and pagans, so they believe in certain dominations, so which has set the standards. So the Constitution, even if you are not in those dominions, the Constitution says that you should not murder. The Bible, the Holy Book, does not talk about you should murder in certain circumstances. So in Africa, to my next point, in Africa, in our culture, we have a culture of Africans whereby we hold wakes when somebody dies. So will it be right that you are holding a wake when somebody dies, unless you are baited his death? That's been hypocritical. We are having double standards. Will you go to the morning and also you shed crocodile tears that, whoa, the guy has gone, unless you are the one who shedded, you abetted his killing? Thank you.
Proposition, you have 1 minute to wrap up your case.
Thank you once again for this chance. I'd like to correct my opponent. According to the book of 2 Samuel, chapter 1, verse 9 to 10, it says that when Saul was killed, and David knew it, because he did not want Saul to undergo the suffering that was going to be there. So please, you could have read that verse and looked at the whole chapter and see that even the Bible can support that people should not undergo suffering, but they should also be able to be allowed to die painlessly. I'd also like to propose this motion that active euthanasia should be really legalized in Kenya. Kenyans are really suffering. If you go to a hospital right now, like KNH, my God, you will surely be surprised. People are really suffering, and yet the doctors and their families are still keeping them there. What do you expect these people to do? They want it. And I also wanted to correct you that active euthanasia, it means that the person is willing. The person knows about it, not just you and that doctor. Thank you.
You have 1 minute for mitigation.
Thank you for my proposals. Yes, she has quoted from the Bible. Indeed, she's a Christian. But let me ask her, where in the Bible is it certain that you should kill under certain circumstances? That you should take life when somebody is suffering? He has mentioned about Saul. Also, let me refer to the Bible. We had David. David underwent suffering. So we are not trying. Why are we trying to reverse we are trying to reverse the nature? How comes that nature suffering is meant to be there for the human race? Even God knows. Even He sent Jesus, isn't it? They are Christian. He sent Jesus. He came to suffer, isn't it? So why are we trying to reverse the law of nature that you are saying we should now take? We are now the demigod that we should take the time we kill. Why should we do it so? And to my next point, we have had cases, like I'm a believer. I come from a deliverance church. An example, the wife of the pastor recovered from the coma after many long years in the coma. So why do you have the knowledge that the person is not going to recover? Abraham Lincoln said that the flowers of tomorrow, they're in the seeds of today. How are you not sure you have taken the flower of tomorrow, which was in the seed of today? Thank you.
St. Gabriel Desmond, I think you have a very nice way of defining the terms so that they can favor you. Suicide, is it? Which is okay for you as a first debater. I think you started off your team by talking about how life is sacred. And so that was your subject of definition. However, when you come as a first speaker, don't cross-examine. That's the role of the second speaker. Good reasoning and you're very confident. However, use your time fully. Bravin, you came and also defined it in another different way, which is as well to your advantage. However, your role now is cross-examination. That did not happen, so that was penalized. I like the fact that you quoted the Constitution, the right to life. I think as a practice, to make you even a better speaker, you want to avoid long pauses, okay? So that at least you can utilize it. Remember, you have 3 minutes, so the faster you can deliver, sometimes the better. But that was well done. Kenneth Kamau, I think you stand out for me. Kamanu, right? You stand out for me, and that was commendable, all right? I love your confidence, your stage presence, and the fact that you're not intimidated by anyone. The answer to the question, I think you should have just posted HIV/AIDS, because cancer, somebody will debate and say we have chemotherapy and the likes, okay, and we have cancer survivors, and so. But anyway, that was still a way of trying to be smart in answering the question. I like the time analogy, birth and death. There's time for everything. However, it could have been easily cross-examined by the other team to say that who says when to be born, all right? Or probably people say they can plan when to bring in children and the likes. The religious stand was well done. I think you came in and really punched holes to them. However, I think there could have been a way of validating it, all right, and said this is what. But I like the fact that you quoted the Quran and said what it says. I think that was commendable. Well done for you, all right? I think my friend Joshua is also from Deliverance Church. Would commend you for that.
To the proposing team, Jacinta, you started off your team well. But then you talked of it minimizes pain. Then you just stopped there. You didn't go further to tell us how to give that explanation. Joy, I liked your cross-examination. And then your points were good. There is this time you talked of just imagine living without money. Then now I was left wondering, is life all about money? So take note of that. Vivian, your answering of the question was fair. I loved your passion. However, you almost became emotional. But that was good.
The judges have decided to award St. Gabriel's Boys Lanet High School 65%. Let's give them a round of applause. And Njoro Girls High School managed to garner 68%, making them the winners of the debate.
Congratulations to both teams. Remember, the debate may be over, but the hashtag still continues. The conversation is on our social media platforms. On Twitter, that is hashtag GDC for SDGs. I have been your host, Chris Boru. Until next time.
And I am Esperanza Kapanga. Catch you next time.